Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I have been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself, and I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
So, super special guest today. I'm very excited.
We are here with Dr. Laurie Coger, and I'm really excited because, first of all, Dr. Laurie and I used to do lives every week back during 2020 when everyone's stuck at home and we didn't know what to do. And it's so nice to just see you again after it's been a crazy, crazy few years. But mostly, I feel like you started a revolution when it comes to live events for the holistic pet space. Because before the Healthy Dog Expo, there really wasn't, there were little things here and there, or, like a pet store may have something for their customers, or a dog trainer might host something for their clients. And then there were booths, maybe 1 or 2 booths at a local pet expo. But as far as actual conferences where we could sit down and learn about holistic things, that was either something that was done very limited online, but it was just really not something in person. And after all of these years of you doing it and seeing other people, now it feels like we all have something to look forward to in our individual areas of the country. And I feel like you got that ball rolling.
Well, thank you for saying that. I so appreciate it. I feel like I did too. And I do want to give credit to Dogs Naturally magazine, who did have an annual live event for several years that was very successful. I think they kind of had a challenge in going to Chicago and such. It became harder for them. And they kind of said, look, we're done with that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I'll be totally honest. People laughed at me. People said, Laurie, nobody wants to travel for a live event. They all want to do online stuff. Mm-hmm. And this was pre-COVID. And I think it was kind of foretelling because we all went online for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is magic in being there, in being with your people and talking to people and meeting people and sitting down and having lunch and listening. And the first event, which was 2018, this year is year 5, a little bit of a gap because of COVID. I had about 100 people at the first event, and it was small, it was comfortable, but people were I want to say mentally on fire, because all of a sudden they looked across the room, and instead of seeing somebody who disagreed with them, they saw somebody who was on their page, mm-hmm. and they made a friend. And that's the magic of the live event. And over the years, I've had so many people say, why won't you put this online? Why won't you stream it? And that's why, because I want your butt in that seat.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to raise your hand and talk to the speaker, whether they be somebody as famous as Karen Becker or Rodney, or somebody that I'm just introducing you to. Like this year, it's going to be Crystal. It's going to be Dr. Lori Larson, people you have never heard speak before. And you're going to be able to talk to them in real time and get their expertise. And there is nothing like that. And, you're going to go to the exhibitor booths And you're going to talk to Dr. Rob Silver of Real Mushrooms, and he's going to answer your questions, and he's going to talk about your dog, and he's going to geek out and be the nerd that he is, the endearing nerd. And you can't get that online. You can't get that experience. And that's why I think as people have taken my model and adapted it to their situation, that it's worked, because the core concept is meeting people that are your tribe.
Yeah.
And I've always said, I'm a connector of people. I connect people to the people and resources they need. And that's what people want, especially post-pandemic.
Yeah. I think the thing about it is that you feel kind of re-energized after you attend something, in person, because it's like we're kind of isolated. I mean, we have social media, but when it comes down to it, many of us, when we think of our friendship circles locally, our family, for me, I am known as a person who makes her own dog's food. So everyone knows me of that in my town. But I don't, even though there are other raw feeders here and there are other people there, I think we might, no, our holistic vet died several years ago. So I don't even think we have a holistic vet in my town. But for the most part, everyone feeds kibble. Everyone goes to a traditional vet. Everyone, I think they know what I do and they ask me questions when questions come up. But for the most part, I'm on my own.
Right.
So it's like, I don't really have these conversations except for with people online. So it's really kind of cool to be, like you said, in a space where everywhere you look are people who, they may not have your same experience or followed your same exact path, but it's people, when you sit down to eat, you just have these invigorating conversations. And it's just like, by the time you're ready to go home, I'm an introvert. By the time I'm ready to go home, I'm exhausted from all of the interaction, but I still feel so good because it's like, this is my jam. This is fun.
Well, and, just being surrounded by that energy and oh my God, I have Julianne Lee of Adored Beast coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited about that.
I am so excited about that. Dr. Danielle Conway had some stuff come up and she's like, look, I just can't get there. And Julianne is like, yeah, I'm in. And after talking with her on the podcast, her grasp of energy and stuff, she's freaking amazing. And you do not want to miss her.
Yeah.
And she broke it down of the aspects of the energy of being around people who are your people, who share some commonality. I mean, most of us come from the space of having had a dog with health problems or gone through something. And that's what prompted our change from the traditional. And let's face it, 95% of people feed conventionally, meaning kibble and canned, and go to conventional vets. So, our tribe is sparse.
Mm-hmm.
But when we can pull them all into one place, that's exceedingly powerful.
Yeah. I also think it kind of diffuses conflict too. I think the reason why we see so much conflict on social media is because we're on social media. We're sitting at a computer. So we are allowing our emotions to get to the highest level. We're firing off things that if we were looking at someone face to face, we probably wouldn't do. We're more likely, because I can sit down with someone and be like, I don't really agree with that. And this is why, and have that type of back and forth. And no one's getting offended. No one's getting upset. No one's feelings are hurt because you didn't agree with them 100%. You can actually have just a really great conversation. Whereas on social media,
it's impossible.
You're like walking on eggshells because you never.
And then there's the time delay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you type your comment in and then you're waiting and you might wait an hour and,
You wake up in the morning to all hell's broken loose.
Oh, yeah. So guys, stay off social media as much as you can. That sounds really crazy to say. Come onto my social media because I find the trolls and I delete them. Kimberly taught me well. Bless them, block them, ban them.
Yep.
But social media has its uses, but it is not a connector of people.
Mm-hmm.
There are no filters. There are no house rules. there's nothing there. So come to a live event, or I will say, come to a paid community, whether it's Kimberly's community, Inside Scoop, when people are willing even to plunk down $1 a month. Trolls won't do that. So it makes it a safe space. And we all need a safe space because we're all dealing with stuff with our dogs. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's it, is that, we all love our dogs. We all, I saw a discussion yesterday that just broke my heart. A woman had lost her puppy, and, most, I wouldn't say, I don't know, I didn't count the comments, but, I would say half of the comments were like, I am so sorry. This has got to be hard for you, blah, blah, blah. My condolences. And the other half were just picking apart what she did wrong.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The reason why your puppy is dead is because of the shampoo that you used, or you used flea and tick care, or you fed kibble, or you did this. And it's just like, again, if we were face to face, like what you said, there are no rules. Face to face, we understand. If someone says that a loved one passed away, our response is, my condolences. Or if someone sneezes, you say, God bless you, or gesundheit. But
we have some level of compassion.
Yes.
And on social media, the compassion reflex is absent.
Well, we're in such a hurry to make a point that we sort of run it, because I saw comments that were like, I'm so sorry for your loss, but this is what, for future reference, you should maybe not do it. And it's just sort of like,
people don't need that.
Yeah. And it's like one time someone told me, with public speaking, and it's something that I've worked on, is using the word but. Like, be careful of using the word but, because
pay attention to what happened, follows the but.
Exactly. Because it's like, whenever you say but, it basically invalidates everything that you said before. And so it's like, just really think about the words that you're using. And even if the people you're talking to don't recognize that that's what's happening, it's like deep down, they're picking that up. And I was just like that, it wasn't the first time I had heard that, but the person who told me was like a professor in public speaking. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, completely, I'm going to pay attention to this, but it's hard to do, because it's like a really easy word.
And I had somebody tell me that in a, how do I want to say this? In situations I did not want to be in. And, when people said stuff after the but, it's like, okay, I really wanted to hear what you said. And then you said, but, and now I'm hearing stuff that is really hurtful. And, when it comes to our dogs, I mean, we're here because we love dogs. I do what I do. I mean, I was talking with someone. Do I make a dime from the expo? No, I'm sure if you put me down for an hourly whatever, I'm negative in, negative 5 cents an hour on how much I put into the expo. But I do it because people who love their dogs need it, and the world needs that energy. And, there are times I curse myself, what it was thinking. How am I going to make this person work with this person? It all works out in the end. And the afterword of the people that have made connections, whether they be sponsors, exhibitors, guests, speakers, it brings the community closer, which is what we actually need, especially at times when so many health problems are cropping up with our dogs. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the incidence of cancer. Look at the food debacles that are currently brewing, if you will. And the number of people who just don't know. I mean, I work in a conventional practice as an integrative veterinarian. I have people that don't know, hey, there's problems with various brands of kibble and canned and freeze-dried right now. They don't even know it. And their dog comes in with vomiting and diarrhea, and I look at what it's eating, and I'm like, can you please change that? I can't give you proof that that's involved, but it's my suspicion, and let's try something else. Or, my God, your dog's got cancer. Let's look at the new testing that's available. between Innovative Vet Labs, Dr. Pope, Oncotech, OncoCanine. There's so many new things we can do that people want to know about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when someone comes in, because it's like, I guess it's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of someone whose dog has, vomiting and diarrhea, only because my dogs don't have vomiting and diarrhea. I mean, it's just, I've been very, very lucky. So knock on wood. But when someone comes in with that, at what point is it food? And at what point could it be like, a virus there's so much.
It's always, let's just talk vomiting and diarrhea. Those are very non-specific symptoms, mm-hmm. or as we say in vet med, signs, because technically a symptom is something I tell you about. Since the dog isn't talking, it's a clinical sign. Semantics. But it could be anything from they got in the trash, they ate, some disgusting thing outside, grandma fed them bacon grease, there was a virus, they ate a new treat. I had a cat today that was interesting. She was eating a mediocre food, but the owners had been giving her greenies treats. Ugh. And the owners observed that the package of greenies treats that they opened was of a different color and a different texture than the previous bag. Mm. Now, to me, that's a red flag. And that means, was there something with the treat? My first suspicion. Yeah. Given it's an indoor cat, it lives in a bubble, nothing else had changed.
Right.
So you kind of have to be a bit of a detective, and you have to take a broad-ranging view of what's going on in that particular scenario. Mm-hmm. Most cat people don't give treats because the cats say, screw you. Wait, money on that. I'm not eating it. But with dogs, people go get bully sticks and whatever, or, somebody brings them a rawhide for Christmas. So dietary changes and treat changes are very common in the dog. Not so common in the cat. But when do I suspect food? When nothing else has changed, or when I know I've heard a lot of things and I'm piped into sources that aren't accessible to the average person. Mm-hmm. And I hear, so-and-so this company had this problem.
Right.
So I'm on alert for that. And I'm just like, change the food, change the treat. Don't feed, green dyed pig ears at, St. Patrick's Day. That's really popular up here. I don't know if it's popular everywhere.
Not here.
But, you can get green pig ears and green cow noses and green rawhides here for St. Patrick's Day.
There we go.
Not a good idea.
But then I have to say, we get red ones at Christmas.
Oh, Christmas, yes, definitely.
The red ones, like the red rawhides.
Things with like ribbony decorations and all of those things, guys, not a good idea. They're just looking to sell and, bump their profits.
So I would love to talk about the virus, the mystery virus that was going around, because it was the talk of the town and then slowly went away. And I don't doubt that it was real, because I personally know someone who lost a dog to a similar virus about 8 years ago, I think. But it's just one of those where it came and it went. Did they ever discover what it was?
My go-to source of information for that was Dr. Scott Weiss from Guelph. He runs a blog called Worms and Germs, I believe. He had some data that suggested it was a mycoplasma, which is a nasty sort of bacteria, hard to treat. But I don't know that they ever firmly locked it down. Mm-hmm. And it definitely seemed to have geographic spikes. in certain areas. Like I never saw a case up here. Well, I've never seen a case of dog flu either, for that matter.
Yeah.
But yet everybody's still so paranoid about vaccinating against influenza with both strains. And, I think geography plays a huge role in those sorts of diseases. I did get an email, and I have not read it yet, from Jean Dodds commenting about, which probably came from her blog, commenting about the disease. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it totally seems to be gone.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't know. I do think common sense measures like really rethinking, do you need to take your dog to a dog park where you don't know who's there, where there's a big old water bucket out that every dog slobbers into? Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Your doggy daycare or boarding or grooming facility that follows normal procedures, that doesn't overcrowd, fine. And just talk with people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting because for a while, everybody was in a panic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to the live events, I've been so fortunate to attend the expo for the last couple of years. And, one of the things that I think is so special about attending in person that would never translate, trying to like stream it or make the videos available, are like the special moments. Like I will never in my life forget Dr. Royal singing for everyone last year.
God. Yes.
And it's like, you could never like recreate that. Like that was like magic that happened in that room in that moment, You
can't. And, and she's got a great voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are those special things that happen. And, I think of various presentations that, had those moments. I think of me harassing Kendra the first year that she came, Dr. Kendra Pope, and saying, Kendra, I have to get you off stage. And she's like, but I have one more case to present. And, everybody is so eager to share and to be there for each other. That doesn't happen just anywhere.
Yeah. And her mom was there.
And Fritz, her dog, was there, who I guess it's public knowledge, but Fritz did pass away. I want to say he was 17 or 18 and lived a great life. But yeah, Kendra was so funny. She said, my mom has never seen me do what I do. Is it okay if I bring her? And I'm like, I got that hotel room. I got whatever you need. And her mom was thrilled, and her mom was charming and was like the hit of dinner the night before. And, you can't put a value on those moments.
Yeah.
And it might be meeting somebody that you had met on social media, but who lives on the other side of the country. And I always think of the year that Rodney and Karen came, post-COVID. Some of us were still in masks. Everybody was like, what's going to happen? But I had people from Dubai. I had Charlie and Larry. I had Nora coming from Paris. I had someone from Hawaii who walked over, gave me a hug and said, thank you for doing this, and handed me Hawaiian coffee and Hawaiian chocolate. And they're like, please enjoy this. And I'm like, yeah, I will. Oh, it was amazing. But, especially after a time when we could not come together, people got the value of coming together and having those special moments. And it didn't matter if stuff went wrong. And certainly that year, I think of the check-in. Were you involved in the check-in?
Well, I did have Dr. Becker giving me my lanyard.
Well, yes. So to let everybody know, that year, the hotel kind of let us down. And we were supposed to start check-ins for Saturday morning registration at 7:30. And at 6:45, they let us know that they had lost the key to our room, our storage room, where all the check-in materials were there. And people, of course, were assembling starting at like 7:00. So there's a line forming.
Yeah, we were like all through the entire hotel.
We were all through the lobby. And the people at the check-in desk were so upset that you were all through the lobby that they kicked you outside and made the line go outside. And at the same time, my team is working with a guy who was the events coordinator, and he couldn't find the key. Now, mind you, we were there at 9:00 the night before in that room. So I don't know what they did with the key.
Did it get locked in the room?
Maybe, I don't know. But in the
they
end,
didn't have any extra keys.
My team member, Jess, took a credit card and broke into the room. And everybody just grabbed stuff and ran.
I can't believe that actually worked. I always thought that, you see it on TV.
Oh, my husband does that.
Jess was genius. And Karen was flipping out. She's like, we got to get people in. So she's taking name tags and walking the line and finding people. And finally, we just sent everybody into the room and said, we'll deal with it after. But, we want to give you your gift bags. We want to give you your name tags, your raffle tickets, your everything. But, it was a disaster, but it was fun too.
Yeah, it was fine.
And people got to see the real Karen, which is running up and down trying to make things work.
And then last year was also the Marsdens,
Oh God, the Marsdens. Yeah, they were riding stick horses across the stage. But, and again, you cannot replicate that. Watching that as a movie is not the same as being there. And I will make an offer to one of your podcasters. I have that stick horse that Karen made that is signed by the Marsdens. And I will give it to one of your lucky people. So you pick it. It's sitting in my closet. And I won't tell you that it's also signed by Barb Royal because she signed inconspicuously, but she's like, I want in on this. But that's why live events, and that's why, I know it's expensive to travel. I know it's expensive to stay in a hotel. You guys have no idea what it costs to put on an event.
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yeah. I will never attempt it again. I'm so grateful that I got a chance to cancel.
It's a learning experience. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so just to share, your box lunch, a sandwich, an apple, a cookie, and some chips costs the promoter $40 to $50 because they tack on fees and stuff. So, when that's part of the price of your admission ticket, we're not making gobs of money on this. We're doing it as a labor of love.
Yeah.
But it is so worth you guys coming and, meeting Steve Marsden and watching him ride a stick horse across the stage while he's explaining why this Chinese herb does what it does. And, great teachers are priceless.
Yeah.
And those sorts of teachings just translate to however you learn. I look out on my audience and I see some people watching, some people videoing, some people taking furious notes. It's like, okay, so you're an auditory learner, you're a visual learner, you're let me write it down. Mm-hmm. But the people that I pick reach all those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons to have Steve there, because I knew he could do it.
When you're planning an event, do you have like a theme in mind?
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. This year's theme loosely is bridging the gap from conventional to alternative, which is why like we have the animal diet formulator VIP sessions where we teach you to go from feeding kibble to making a fresh food recipe using a tool so you know you're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And, why we have some of the, like we've had microbiome lectures, we've had cancer lectures that bridge that gap. So sometimes yes, but I usually start with who I want to hear from, who I pick my speaker panel first. Who do I want? Who have I heard is up and coming?
Mm-hmm.
What fresh voices are out there? And, this year is a lot about fresh voices and even though Lori Larson, who inherited Ron Schultz's immunology lab at Wisconsin, she's kind of an old voice, but she's not spoken a lot. And people have been bugging me to have somebody talk about titers and vaccines and immunology forever.
So that was the Rabies Challenge Fund?
Ron Schultz was part of the Rabies Challenge Fund, yes. And Lori had worked under him for a long time, and then Ron retired, and he named her, his successor. And she's just a wonderful person.
I was excited to see Rita Hogan on the East Coast too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. It's like if I can bring somebody into the area that is not commonly in the area, that's a plus. And Rita, she has a great book coming out. It's awesome.
I know. I'm excited for that book.
And she too, she's one of those natural teachers, and she's just got such vibrant energy. Lindsay Went, who's working with Trina Hazah, who I had last year, just good energy, alternative viewpoint, can talk about traditional Chinese medicine, which I haven't had somebody do before, and integrating things. So it's a lot of new voices this year, and some of my new vendors and sponsors. I'm really excited to have the folks from Bold Raw coming down. I think it's Bold Raw. Caroline Bolduck, who was Bold by Nature before, they had a name change. So it's a Canadian raw food company.
Oh, okay.
That is now moving into the U.S.
Oh, okay.
That'll be interesting. I'm curious about any like how that transition is going to be, because the way they do things in Canada versus here has got to be very different.
Yeah, and she's doing it right. I mean, I envision once and this is year 1 of US, she'll be on Susan Thixton's list. It's a quality product.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really trying to do it right. But she'll be on my speaker panel, my discussion panel, talking about how do we transition to, coming into a new market, to reaching new people, to taking, again, from the conventional to the alternative. So that's going to be cool. That's going to be very cool.
Yeah, the speaker panel was a lot of fun last year too.
Oh yeah. Well, and what you don't know, the speaker panel, I had one person who called me up the day before and said, I think I have COVID. I had one person who was supposed to be on the speaker panel who called me up the day before and said, my bitch is having puppies. There's no way I can leave her. So there was a lot of excitement with the speaker panel, but things worked out. Yeah. It was brilliant. And I give a lot of credit to Dr. Royal for, pulling those people together and giving good content. But I think people really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And hearing different takes on different topics.
Yeah.
Because it's great to hear a lecture and it's like, okay, you're Dr. Smith and you think ABC. But when I can say, Billy, what do you think? Kendra, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Susan? Those are 3 different perspectives.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to show that, because it shows that we don't all have to be walking straight down the same path. We can, there are many ways to get to a healthy dog. There are many paths that you can take, and it's okay for people to explore different things because we're dealing with different dogs. We're in different areas of the country. We have different resources. And it's always, to me, one thing I tell people is that I learn so much from people I disagree with because they're sharing a completely different perspective that I've never considered. We just got to get out of our own way, set the ego aside and actually hear what they're saying. It doesn't mean that we have to change our mind. We don't have to agree, but just take the time and consider it, because I'm convinced that if I'm ornery and stubborn and insist on it being my way all the time, the next dog that God sends me is going to be the dog that can't eat raw, that has an allergy to everything under the sun except for feathers. and it
keeps getting fleas.
Yeah, exactly. Keeps getting fleas. I mean, it's just like all kinds of stuff where all the things that I was just like,
Well, and I would just add, beyond perspective, priorities, because let's take, my friends, because I am totally blessed with an amazing network of friends who also happen to be in my field and are experts in theirs. If I ask Kendra about a case, and then I go ask Steve Marsden about a case, or Barbara Royal, or my conventional colleague, I'm going to get viewpoints from very different perspectives. And they're going to prioritize different testing, different procedures, different treatment modalities. What are they going to address first? What are they going to address second? It'll vary. And, the value of pulling that all together and then coming up with a final plan is huge.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. I mean,
it really is.
I mean, it is. I remember when I went, I was sick.
You were awfully sick.
I was so sick, and I just kept taking naps. Then I came out and spoke, and then I went back and took another nap. The poor man on the plane on my way home, thank God it was.
And you were like, maybe we could go to dinner, but I really want to sleep.
I know, exactly. I think I had chicken wings. I think I had chicken wings delivered to my room. That's right. I forgot about that. But it was just like, thank God it was before COVID, because they would have probably not let me on the plane. I was so sick.
Oh, true.
But
again, this is why we go to these things.
But it's like, that's what's so funny is that had I, I'm sure people picked up on the fact that I wasn't feeling well.
You were under the weather. I just remember you saying, I am not a veterinarian. I'm not.
Yes, over and over and over again. And I still say it today. I even get messages from people going, I know you're not a veterinarian. And in my head, I'm thinking, then why are you about to ask me what you're about to ask me? Because it's like, I am not going to risk harming your dog with my absolute lack of knowledge on whatever topic you're going to bring up. But yeah, it's just like, I do believe that, what you said, it all works out. And when people leave, they don't remember that, it took forever for them to get their lanyards. They remember Dr. Becker running around and handing out lanyards. They don't remember.
And the friends I made in the line.
Yeah. They don't remember, someone going over their time. They remember the fun interaction that you had with that person, or, what they learned.
Or the mind-blowing piece of information that helped their dog.
Yeah. I mean, and what's funny is that also sometimes the delays that happen help me finalize my notes, or help me, give me a break so I can lean over to a person. Hey, what did they say about this? Right. That type of thing, and have those. But yeah, it is really kind of, I wish I could afford to go to every event in this country, because it's so much fun.
Well, and, I'm gratified that, everything from little pet stores to like Real Dog Box has really stepped up, and Ruby, who's expecting her first child.
Yeah.
And I'm so bummed they will not be here. They're awesome. They're sending notebooks for every gift bag.
Oh, nice.
So everybody will have a notebook from them.
Oh, wow.
But Ruby's due date is literally the weekend of the expo.
Oh, wow.
So she's like, there's no way anybody's going anywhere.
Yeah.
But they've put together a great program out in San Diego.
Yeah.
And, for people who can't cross the country.
And I think that's the beauty of it, is that, the fact that it is spreading around the country, it does leave it open to people who wouldn't normally be able to go.
And it also gives us a variety of dates, because it's really funny. I was gifted a consultation with a professional event planner who he plans events for like Stanford University that raises $2 million. I mean, he's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked him. He was a roadie for Fleetwood Mac at one point.
Oh, wow.
And some other things. I mean, his
how did you not just stay on that during the concert?
I know.
I really, really wanted to.
It's like our age is showing now.
Our age
Stevie and Lindsay, I gotta know.
Okay, so you carted Stevie and Lindsay's stuff around. But he had such an interesting career, but he now plans these huge events for things like Stanford, events that raise, largely fundraisers, $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I came to him from a friend of his who's in a mastermind with him. And I gave him my first dates. He's like, well, the first thing you need to do is change your dates. And I mean, the wind just went out of me. And, then I'm like, hey, I'm getting your advice. I know I could not afford your advice, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening. And he told me why. And I'm like, okay, I'm changing my dates. And that's how I wound up in April. And my April dates are a little challenging for some people, but they're a whole lot better when I looked at the big picture.
Yeah.
And he gave me all sorts of other advice. And it was mind-blowing, all the things that I had both done right and done wrong. And it's like, because I just entered into this as a passionate amateur. And was like, wow, I did okay here. Or, wow, I really blew this. But the overriding thing he told me is it's all about the experience. And that was something that resonated with me. And, you guys have just brought it up. It's about what we did when we were there. And that's why we went. And that's why we were willing to travel, to stay in a hotel, all that stuff, because we wanted the experience of being with our people, learning in person,
Mm-hmm.
putting our hands on products and stuff. And that's, that was a big reason why when Rita made herself available, I'm like, yeah, and we need to put people's hands on the herbs.
Yeah.
And she was totally down with that. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And that's what's lacking in veterinary care. Because think about your average vet care visit. Does your vet ever take your hand and say, feel this? Probably very rarely. Or listen to this and put a stethoscope in your ears and give you that hands-on experience in whatever way is appropriate. And that's what I'm aiming to do.
Mm-hmm.
So my vet actually went with me to the conference last year, so I have a very different vet experience than most people.
That is so wonderful.
I know. I'm very lucky because I go to a traditional vet. I went from an integrative vet, who I actually very much miss my integrative vet. But the driving to her clinic was just too much. So I go to a traditional vet, but thankfully a very good friend of mine manages the clinic. So she prepared them for me, or I'm assuming that
many traditional vets are open.
Yeah. I mean, either she did or they, because they didn't bat an eye and they don't care. And it is one of those where they have these really great conversations with me where, and this one thing is like, I can talk about it now, but it's been a long time since I've been able to talk about it. But when Rodrigo passed, they both prayed over him. Mm-hmm. And that meant so much to me. And it was it was a heartbreaking experience for me, but they were so compassionate. And so, we talked about, where he was and just the way they handled it. And I think, there are a lot of vets that can do the same. My last vet would have done beautifully as well, but it meant so much to me. And it breaks my heart when I hear from people who don't have that type of experience, because I think that all it takes is a couple of negative experiences with a veterinarian to poison someone against the profession.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I think of everything I went through, 10, 12 years ago that got me started on this, more holistic journey, and the names that the vet called me and the, how I was crazy and trying to kill my dogs and, all these things.
And sadly, I would wager 80 to 90% of people see conventional vets, and there are varying degrees of openness. And there's another practice across town from me that is extremely anti-raw. And literally, as soon as someone mentions raw there, you're killing your dog. It's just bad. Yeah. And they wind up with, they Google raw friendly vet, Albany, New York, and they come up with me.
Yeah. Well,
and they just tell me they felt belittled and blamed and not listened to.
My thing is, a friend of mine, Brian, he works with, Raw Dog Food Company, and he has a service dog or a therapy dog. Mm-hmm. And he shared that he went to go do an appointment so he can, do something with the certification. And he made an appointment. He had the appointment for a while. And then, I think he showed up and the veterinarian wouldn't even come out and speak to him, because that's when they learned that he fed raw. And they just wanted him to leave. And it was just sort of like, well, if it's to the point where you can't even show someone the courtesy of coming out and just saying, hey, you do you, I'm not comfortable with this.
Right.
And
if any of you saw the Instagram post that went up from me today, it was like, if raw food is so dangerous, chefs would be dead.
Yes. I saw another one where you posted where if something was so dangerous, cats would.
Oh, yeah. The cat with the mouse in their mouth.
Yeah.
I sent Kimberly one that said, what about all those times people eat raw cookie dough? If you're so worried about salmonella.
Yeah. And truthfully, Susan Thixton has the data. There's more recalls for kibble with salmonella than there is for raw. But, beyond that, and Tufts being the, I don't know what you would call them, the paramount example of being anti-raw. One of their nutritionists did a live Zoom that was also released on recording. If anybody wants it, I'll send it to you. Where they talked about at the end that would they see a dog who was eating raw? And they said, yes, they would examine it and treat it. It would come in the hospital in a special exam room. The doctor would wear gown mask gloves. Afterward, they would totally disinfect the area and any place the dog had been. If it was hospitalized, it would be in a ward by itself. Oh my God. And, if it went outside, that area would be disinfected. And it's like, my God.
Are they a vegetarian? Because that's what I don't understand.
I don't understand. It's like, I throw meat on the barbecue. People eat sushi. People eat lychee. I love a rare London broil. Mm-hmm. Those are all not totally cooked meats.
Yes.
And we know that romaine lettuce can carry salmonella listeria. Yes. Why are you such a germaphobe that, any place this dog moves, you've got to disinfect?
I would think you would do it with all dogs, because even like if you set food aside, my dogs are swimming in a pond that a duck couple has made their home. So I'm sure they're pooping in it. And my dogs, and there's frogs in it and stuff. And my dogs find anything.
There's turtles, there's whatever.
My dogs find anything dead and roll into it
and they're not
as possible.
Is Tufts doctors putting on cap gown mask to deal with that dog?
It's before the dog came to the house. You don't know what that dog might have done. That you're touching the dog and in the dog's face.
That just encourages people to lie.
Exactly.
Well, to lie, and it encourages other people to be irrationally fearful of fresh food feeding.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Tufts Wildlife Service does not take the same precautions when handling wildlife, which could be anything from a woodchuck, bird of prey, squirrel, whatever. Those animals are out there in the same environment, eating stuff, walking on dirt, hiding in trees, chewing on sticks, whatever. I just don't get it. And I mean, I grew up, we drank water from the hose. We played in the pond, in the brook.
We're the last good generation.
We're the last generation.
But we were afraid of no germs.
There are germs and bacteria in the world and outside, and we're meant to encounter them in small amounts and have our immune system react to them and produce antibodies or what have you, whatever's appropriate. So we can live. You can't live in a sterile bubble.
Yeah. And
that's kind of what I feel like the anti-raw segment of my profession wants people to do, not recognizing that ultra-processed food is not sterile.
Yeah.
And
I think it's unfortunate because I feel like everyone is in their own bubble. And I know this is 100% naive of me. And I know it's naive before I even say it. But I feel like if people got out of their own little echo chamber and actually started speaking to people that didn't believe as they believed, I mean, so much could be, because it's like, my whole thing is, I don't need you to feed raw. You don't have to feed your dog raw. I just want to share ideas of things that you can do. Because when I first discovered raw and when I realized my dog wasn't doing well on kibble, I didn't switch to raw the next week. It took almost a year for me of researching and learning because I had no idea what that meant. Some people were throwing a chicken in the yard. Some people were like getting roadkill. I was just like, I don't want to do any of that. That doesn't sound safe at all. And I was afraid of bones. And, there's so much information out there that people are trying to wade through. We're reaching people who think garlic is toxic. They think all mushrooms are toxic.
Avocado.
Yes. Avocado.
Yeah.
And we're still seeing people share these memes of, I even had, I'll have people send me like, oh, I want to write an article telling you the list of toxic foods. And I'll ask them, well, what is on your list? And then I respond with wrong, 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 and wrong. But it's just sort of like, but people are wading through this. And not only that, but they have, the veterinarian community that supports some of this misinformation. And it's hard to make that leap because that you're making it on your own by yourself, which full circle is the reason why events like yours are so important, because people are on their own. I mean, you can get on social media, but, it's very combative. Not everyone, but there are just some people that are so passionate about raw feeding that they won't entertain kibble at all. And then there are people on the other side that are so passionate against raw feeding that if you ask them any questions, they're not going to be welcoming or helpful at all. But when you can go to an event and actually talk to people who are at all levels of experience, including, veterinarians and herbalists, it just gives you a sense of calm and like, okay, I can do this.
Yes. And as I was talking with my cat client that I told you about earlier, they went online and they're like, could it be kidney disease? And I said, no, because, your cat does not have these 5 clinical signs. And that brought home to me the fact that a simple Google search, while it might lead them to the right answer, it does not look at the big picture. But when you're actually talking to somebody or listening to them lecture with the opportunity to ask questions in real time, you can find out, is this real? You get a whole different vibe and perspective than when you're just researching or watching something online that, it feels like it's just a level removed.
Yeah.
If you will. Even though it could be the same expert, talking in person versus talking in a video.
Amen.
The live experience is just vital.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me wish I didn't have dogs so I could travel more but I could never do that.
Maybe you should just start doing them twice a year now. You have time.
Oh my God.
You have time.
You have no okay.
You can do them in April and then in October, but not the beginning of October because I have events that I have to do at the beginning.
Well, and I think of like I do Canine Camp Getaway once or twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
That is, a live in person with your dog, take your dog on vacation, have fun activities, have learning activities. I mean, it's amazing, truthfully. And we'd love to take that across the country. And I think at some point
that would be amazing.
Because right now there's Canine Camp Getaway, which happens in Gettysburg and West Durham, New York, which is a little south of Albany. And there's a dog camp in Tahoe that is amazing. But those are really the only two that offer similar things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that in-person, connect with your people, learn stuff, do stuff, build relationships. It's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
And especially, I will say, post-pandemic, because we lost a lot of those.
Yeah.
And we lost the ability to, maintain them or form them easily. Not that it's impossible, but, it's really nice to sit down with somebody for coffee and talk about stuff or lunch. Or
and I have a lot of respect for all of you guys that are putting on these events, because just my one attempt to put on the Seattle Natural Pet Expo, in which I was emailing Laurie every week. She sent me samples of contracts, and I'm just like, they want me to make sure you ask for this. And when the pandemic was announced, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to.
No, it takes, and after the event, I will always say, never again, never again. But, I remember the pandemic and talking to Rodney, because it's like, okay, I got to coordinate with you guys. Oh, this will be over in 3 months. And he's like, Laurie, 3 years might be closer. But there's a lot of challenges with coordinating it. And I couldn't do it if I didn't already have the amazing network of experts that will help me, or that will introduce me to their friends who will help me, and my volunteers. I mean, I have an awesome team. And like last year, we went to the storage unit, we got all the goodies for the bags, and then I got pulled away and I came back and they just told me the bags were done. It was just amazing. And, I get a lot from it, which is why I do it. And I just want people to come and have a blast and learn stuff and benefit their dogs.
Is it a 1 day or 2 day event now?
We're actually kind of at 2.5.
Oh, wow.
Because it's all day Saturday until 3 p.m. Sunday. And the VIPs start Friday afternoon with a wine and cheese reception. And Caroline from Bold Raw is going to be talking during that, kind of probably Q&A, something casual.
Okay.
And then the VIPs get a breakfast, they get their extra sessions and such. But 2.5 days.
Nice.
So it's a total immersion into natural dog health. And I think that's one way that I learn best. So that's why I kind of went that way this year.
And it's kind of a great location. There's a lot of like restaurants and Starbucks and all those kind of things around. So
pretty much with Albany within, well, certainly on Wolf Road, you guys can walk to a restaurant if you choose. I'm partial to Professor Java's Coffee Sanctuary over Starbucks, but there's coffee there. There's a Whole Foods. Get in the car, in 10 minutes, you're at the Apple store if you choose to. I mean, everything's in Albany. So, you want an organic market, you want a co-op, Whole Foods, LL Bean, Apple Store, Trader Joe's, the movies, whatever you want is there.
Yeah.
And last year, hopefully we won't have a repeat this year of the water situation. That was crazy too.
Oh my God. So you have to understand, I told my sponsors, because one of their things was, Saturday we come in, we set up, we don't get anything till lunch. We're really hungry. I said, no problem, guys. I'm going to get you coffee and bagels and donuts. And my assistant will bring it in at like 6 a.m. So, you guys don't have to buy it. And there was a water main break. And it affected so many of the local, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. Nobody could make them coffee. Nobody.
Yeah, I was driving like multiple exits up the road.
Dunkin' Donuts actually just closed.
Yeah, everybody was just closing. Yeah.
I was able to get donuts, and the hotel gave us a crew member named Jimmy, who was running around with like cases of bottled water and such. And he's like, I don't have coffee, but here, have a beverage. Somebody complained that the donuts were not healthy. It's like, okay, they're not healthy, but you know what? This is a moment where you need sugar. So go for it.
That's when you just don't have one.
Yeah.
You just don't have one.
And I did have fruit for them as well. But that was a major challenge. And it was a challenge for the hotel because they were literally going to the grocery stores, buying gallons of water to make coffee for their restaurant.
Oh, wow. Probably along with everyone else in the area. That must have been
everybody else in the area. Yeah. And it literally happened, Friday night at like midnight or 2 a.m. So there was like no time to prep. It was challenging.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the cocoa therapy ladies. They were in the donuts like you wouldn't believe. It's like, you're the most petite, amazing little woman.
Right?
And you're like, you got a donut in each hand.
It's like,
I am so glad.
Showing off.
They are amazing, and their products are amazing.
Yeah.
But they had me laughing. They kept me sane. It was great.
That is amazing. Well, cool. Well,
so now you know all the behind the scenes stuff.
Now we know how, what goes into it, how amazing it is. I'm jealous that I won't be attending, but I am looking forward to everyone having a fantastic time. Yes.
And I will make sure you have a fantastic time because it will be awesome. It'll be awesome. And I'm so glad you guys have given me the chance to share some of this stuff because I don't usually get the chance. So this is great.
I know. Thanks for taking the time to talk because I know that you're busy in the planning stage. So I really appreciate it.
Sure.
I've been the last 2 years and I can't wait to come back. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely. And you definitely need to, we'll slip you in at the wine and cheese reception so you can meet the team and hang out a bit.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.